Hello and welcome to our closing plenary for the 4th CHW Symposium. It's been a pleasure to be with you over these past 3 days. We have learned so much, we've been inspired, and we will keep trying to build momentum in the years to come, together. My name's Tom Trail. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for CPI, one of the hosts of the symposium. If you would like translation to French or Spanish, it's available in the interpretation button at the bottom of this Zoom call. Today, we reach one of the big aims of this symposium, the Bangkok Call to Action. We are all proud of the inputs everyone who's participated has made. We've had comments and suggestions from 3 different groups throughout the period. We had many people also give extra additional support outside of this. And I think, yeah, it's really appreciated and we're really excited to have it read today by 3 CHWs. Thank you for participating, for supporting this process, for teaching us, for learning from others, and for building collective power together. With a view to the past and to the future, let me hand over first of all to King, who's one of the organizers of the first CHW Symposium in Uganda, an ongoing champion for community health workers. King's currently the Executive Director of Reach Trust. Over to you, King. Is King actually here? And if not, we might have to instead go straight to Lenny. So Lenny will be hosting, managing, moderating our panel. Lenny's been a tremendous support to all of us at throughout this CHW Symposium. She has supported us on this call to action. She's coached us. She's really involved the community health workers in the call to action process in a way that we wouldn't have been able to do without her. She's the Director of Policy at Chic, and we want to, yeah, we really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to your moderation of this panel. So over to you, Lenny.
Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, good evening, fellow champions of professional community health workers. We are really very excited that we are here on the last day as we read the Bangkok Call to Action. And I want to echo what Tom has mentioned, to thank everybody who has participated in this symposium, those who planned it to make it happen despite the challenges we are going through right now. And then and above all, our community health workers whose commitment and passion keeps inspiring us to do whatever we can to make sure that professional community health workers become the norm worldwide. So we have an interesting, amazing panel this afternoon to close this symposium. To start with, we'll have 3 of the chairs of the main plenary sessions, led by Nazo Kuresh, we all know, followed by Tom Trail, and then Dan, to kind of share their key takeaways from our 3 main plenary sessions. And then thereafter, I will introduce the community health workers. So over to you, Nazo, to share the key takeaways from the opening plenary of the symposium. Thank you. Nazo?
Thank you, Lenny. Can you see me? Lenny, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, I
Yes?
can see you and we can hear you. Most welcome.
Okay. Okay, colleagues, we have made it to our closing plenary, and I'm very pleased to report out on the key takeaways from our opening plenary, where we were trying to understand the current state of play from the perspectives of community health workers, the community level, from regional actors such as Africa CDC, working closely with the African Union, from advocates working at the global level, such as Chic, and funders and other institutions, World Bank, Global Fund, and Johnson and Johnson. And it was a rich panel. The diversity of perspectives that we mobilized helped us to get a pulse on the current moment, to better understand what is our ambition within this context and where do we have opportunities. And we wanted to set the tone for all participants of the symposium to contribute to the Bangkok call to action. And I think all of our panelists were fantastic and really helped us to reframe the current challenges and opportunities into sort of a powerful commitment forward. I will focus on three categories of takeaways that I noted. One was sort of an unwavering commitment. Second was trends that were very eloquently highlighted from what institutions were learning and what they were seeing in countries and in the behavior of partners. And then sort of a call for building on what we've done and for greater cooperation and collaboration as we move forward. So the first key takeaway, and I will give you some examples to give you a flavor of what was said. Obviously, not fully comprehensive, but at least some interesting snippets that I hope will further motivate you as you consider your actions moving forward. So there was a clear, unwavering commitment across all participants from the community level to the global level to safeguard the progress that we have made and to finish the job together. So from Margaret, we heard that the Kenyan government had made great strides since the Monrovia call to action, since we mobilized there, to formalize her role as a community health promoter, paid, digitized, recognized in national policy. And it was absolutely fantastic to see Margaret applauding and recognizing the government of Kenya and its highest level of leadership, to not only formalize her role, to give her a dignified job, and to also elevate her voice and the voice of her peers in national policy discourse. And we saw how our convenings like Monrovia play a role in cross-country dialogue and mobilizing action forward. From the World Bank Global Financing Facility, we heard that they are fully committed to supporting countries to mainstream community health workers in the workforce, ensuring their respect and legitimacy throughout the health system at different levels, and to pivot from numbers to quality as a part of its high priority of achieving universal health coverage and care. It's one of its three top priorities that have been articulated. From Africa CDC, despite a 71% reduction in the overseas development assistance in the continent, the Africa CDC, with the African Union and the highest levels of leadership, including the president of Nigeria, are engaging in conversations on financing and redefining financing through the Green Book that they encouraged all of us to check out, and continuing to work towards its 2 million community health worker target with member states as it has crossed its halfway point. Africa CDC was also very proud to report that 60% of its member states recognize community health workers in national policies. And community health workers are firmly positioned as critical workforce for primary healthcare and amongst its pillars for investment. At the global level, Chic is committed to finishing the job with all of us. And they want us to focus on what works and finish the job, and to do it by coordinating and unleashing our political will to professionalize CHWs. And its leadership want to see us transforming from promise to practice, transforming the map, the pro CHW map and dashboard, and move from promise to practice. And Johnson & Johnson, as an act of its commitment, replenished its investment in the Catalytic Fund for Africa Frontline First. And the blended financing within the Catalytic Fund, bringing private sector in and making it a part of its core corporate social responsibility is really tremendous. So we had many different actors and sort of an amplification of an unwavering commitment to safeguarding our progress. And particularly in this moment, it was very inspirational to hear these diverse perspectives. Second, we heard about major trends, and I think within these trends are also opportunities for us to act together and for us to think about our principles of engagement, particularly with countries, but also as partners. And this was grounded in the Lusaka agenda and harmonizing and aligning our support behind national priorities and plans, and particularly the one budget, one M&E, one plan, one budget, one M&E. So the trends that were very eloquently articulated based on what was being observed by Global Fund at the country level were put forth in the following way. The first trend was a shift towards domestic financing. And it was recognized that these are the early days, but it is happening and it's going to accelerate in the next decade. And this is a point of celebration and also something for us to look forward to. And they recognized also that the African Union and Africa CDC have really helped to push on this through engaging high-level leadership. Specific countries that were mentioned where they are witnessing this trend include Kenya, Zimbabwe, Niger, and there are many more countries. But the country level ownership and the commitments that are coming through in financing are a huge step forward. And it's only going to increase. And these were put forward as mega trends, these three items. The second trend was a shift away from single disease and vertical programs to integrated service packages that are aligned to national policies and plans and set by countries, and also integration of community health workers within the system. So domestic financing, integration, and the final one was a greater alignment behind national priorities and the one plan, one budget, one M&E. And this is coupled with transparency, which is very exciting, where we are sharing more data. We are developing scorecards at the regional level. Africa CDC put forward its results from that continental survey that they have repeated. And it's very exciting to see us as collaborators and partners working together to share what we are learning, whether it's around resource mapping, whether it's about critical indicators around system support, the standards that we have set for CHW programs based on evidence. It's really exciting to see more alignment, more inclusion of CHWs in national analyses and exercises that are being conducted, harnessing of better understanding what is happening at the national level and sharing it as partners in our commitment to sort of coordinate and better align. And finally, I wanted to end this reflection on cooperation and collaboration. And there were many expressions of this across partners. And of course, I give a few examples only. At the national level, and you will hear Dan speak more about this, Margaret spoke very passionately about the need for community health worker associations and the need to organize as community health workers to be a part of co-creating policy and programs as we move forward. And she is working on this in Kenya with support from the Kenyan government, and she wanted to see it happening across the world. And so I won't steal Dan's thunder here. I'll just say that very much at the national level and at the community level, we see this organizing happening and the momentum is building. At the regional level, Africa CDC did a session on how has the Continental Coordination Mechanism advanced the commitments that we made at the third International Symposium around the Monrovia Call to Action and the 5 action areas within that. And it was very exciting to hear Africa CDC leadership speak about the role of the Continental Coordination Mechanism, not only in terms of coordinating and accelerating progress at the member state level, but also at the continental level, really developing a movement with high-level leadership, with the president of Nigeria, who is playing a critical role and connecting the work of the CCM with all of its partners and member states to the high-level meetings that they're doing. At the global level, we have vibrant networks of different types of partners who are committed to this common agenda of ours around better support and professionalization of community health workers and better integration in systems. CHIC is one of those networks. We also have the Africa Frontline First, and of course, there is the Community Health Delivery Partnership. And these are vibrant networks where we can come together, share progress. These are country-driven. They bring together country and community-driven. They bring together different types of actors around this common agenda. And I think that we have to hold on to this as we move forward and really nurture. And on the Community Health Delivery Partnership, because it has been such a pleasure to have been a part of USAID's work and to have witnessed the power of its convening role over the past 2 decades in my role, and to have spurred collaboration and learned lessons with countries. We, in 2017, in the Institutionalizing Community Health Conference, came together and just did a global conference, which was very different, where we wanted to have a best practice around country delegations to be a part of that conference. And that spurred this country-driven effort to have a collaboration, which was initially the Community Health Roadmap, where we elevated national priorities of 15 focus countries. And as we moved forward, the symposia, the third International Community Health Worker Symposia, our Monrovia Call to Action, helped us to elevate that partnership to operationalize the 5 action areas into the Community Health Delivery Partnership, where there is an increasingly inclusive space for actors, different types of actors working at all levels, and it enables cross-regional collaboration. It enables us to align behind national priorities and plans, and it helps us to think about how we may bring together diverse actors, including civil society, as we move forward with these national priorities, and how we improve coordination at the country level. So I just went back into history a little bit to say that over the past decade, our work together, whether it's been small or whether it's been grand, we have done this together. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge everyone who has contributed to building political momentum to sort of transform the commitments that we make into concrete action, to continue to learn and improve these efforts. That is what this vibrant community health movement is today. And I hope that this continues to grow. And there was a clear recognition in the panel that we have opportunities to continue to strengthen the vibrancy of this network, and that it is very powerful, and that all of the actors who were there in the initial panel are linked through the Community Health Delivery Partnership in one way or the other, and that there is a commitment to continue to share data, to continue to work together, and to really learn from where countries are going and to support sovereignty and to build vibrant networks at the country level as well to tackle the challenges that lie ahead. So let's finish the job. And I hand it back over to Lenny. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of the symposium. I hope these convenings will continue and evolve in different ways, and look forward to how all of you will continue to make this movement your own and give it the power that is increasing within it and really translate it to change for community health workers and communities and nations all around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nazo, for that wonderful reflection and highlighting the key takeaways from our opening plenary. I think we've all heard it. The work is still to be done. We are all committed. And I now want to call upon Tom to also share your reflections, but also most importantly, the key takeaways from the plenary that you shared, in case some of us were not there, so that we can add to what Nazo has mentioned. So Tom, over to you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. And again, hi, everyone. I was very proud to host the second plenary of this symposium, which was titled Healers in Hostile Settings, the Power of Community Health Workers in Conflict Settings. The second plenary focused on the role of CHWs in conflict settings in particular. And the biggest takeaway for me, I think, was the incredible lengths to which health workers go to provide services to their communities. The hardships they endure, the risks they take, the mental strength they need to go on doing what they're doing for others in their community. Of the personal testaments that were shared within the plenary, we had CHWs who were themselves displaced or living in refugee camps, one who was unable to show even their face for security reasons. And yet they keep on providing health services for their communities. And I think that is testament to the power of community health workers, the resilience, and also how important these people are for the health and the communities we live in. The second takeaway that came through to me is that these workers take on roles beyond community health. They become community leaders, they become community builders, they become community healers. These things in these kind of high pressure situations become core parts of their communities, even beyond what they were before, because they are still there and they have skills which are vital for everyone in that community. And a final takeaway was the reminder that systems break down in conflict, even when there are systems which we're all working towards to provide salary, to support, to supervise, to supply community health workers. Military conflicts often pose too many challenges for these systems to continue functioning. This brought back memories of our webinar focused on climate change and natural disasters, which can lead to exactly the same kind of breakdown at times when the community needs are greatest. These all leave the community health workers both even more vital. They're often in these settings not just the bridge to the formal health system, but they become the whole health system, but also completely alone. They can be without supplies, without pay, without even a chance of supervision. One of the stories from Myanmar spoke of the combination of these two types of events, both natural disaster and conflict. When an earthquake struck in Myanmar in a conflict-affected part where the health system was already broken down. These kind of compound crises can build the challenges and isolation for community health workers. But then through the discussion, I think what came out was that in these settings, that's a key reason that we need to continue to focus on the systems that support community health workers. It's one thing if a system goes down for a week or two, but that's not an excuse to not support the system for the longer term. CHWs so often remain with their communities, whether or not they are also displaced or whether they remain in these communities that are static but affected by conflict. Building a system to support them, even in these conflict settings, and a system that's locally rooted and focuses on empowering the community health workers and making their work possible, will mean that we'll create a healthier community and a healthier health system, even in these kind of circumstances. Community health workers need the health systems behind them, like every kind of health worker, and for them to be flexible and long-lasting, given that they're in these kind of contexts. And finally, I think we talked about that these systems need to be locally rooted. Whether that means with the national government or whether it's with a more locally relevant institution, because community health workers endure an investment in them can create long-lasting change. So we have to make sure that is locally rooted, locally empowering, even if the context makes it feel almost impossible. So I think the one piece that is not directly related to the call to action, which I just wanted to say though, was that it was an incredible opportunity to bring together these speakers. I was talking about the isolation, the lack of support and systems which community health workers in these conflict settings often face. There's so many layers of what might make people isolated in these kind of jobs and these locations. They may be refugees, they may be community health workers, not doctors with university degrees. They may be migrants at some point, and then they're living in a conflict which makes it hard to leave for anyone. And yet, because of this being a virtual event, as we said at the start, it wasn't what we hoped for. But at the same time, it did mean that we could bring these people together. We had people from Palestine, from Myanmar, and from Mali who had been working working in areas they would not have been able to join us in any one place in the world in person together, almost certainly. And so we were able to recognize the common challenges, to celebrate the work that all of these people had done, and also commiserate the need for that work in these contexts. But it felt really meaningful to me, and it was one of the things that I was most proud of with this whole symposium, that we were able to bring so many people together. We had over 300 community health workers who have attended this symposium, and I think that's something I think all of CPI is extremely proud of. Yeah, that's it from me, Lenny. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Tom. And as you speak, I can clearly see the emotion, and I'm sure all of us feel that, especially we feel for our fellow community health workers who are working in conflict in among displaced communities. That's why we are here. And as I urge everyone who is on this call, please stay until you hear the call to action being read so that we can together commit to seeing this through because the work is yet to be done. I mean, sometimes when you're in our comfort zone, we don't really see what others are going through. But this symposium, by the nature of it being virtual, has brought many more community health workers, and their voices have been heard. Maybe if it had been in person, it wouldn't have been that opportunity. So I see a blessing in disguise of having this as a virtual event. So without further ado, I'll call upon Dan, who chaired an amazing session of powerful community health worker leaders and on the power of alliance building. So as much as we all speak for community health workers, but the key is community health workers speaking for themselves. And we have a slogan in CHIC that says, nothing about us without us. So I want to hear Dan, having chaired that session, what are your key takeaways and reflections? Over to you, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lenny, and hi, everybody. It is true. I had the extreme pleasure of simply being there while three of the most compelling voices, not the only compelling voices but three of the most compelling voices in community health were able to speak their truth. And before I get into that, if you're wondering what it felt like, I just want you to go into the chat yourselves and notice that there's a lot of people greeting and saying, hello, family. Hello, brothers. Hello, sisters. This is very special. This is the sense that we got in this plenary. And I also want to shout out to Victor Zizwang Mishifa, who shared with us a beautiful poem. And it has to do with what we talked about in this plenary. So I'll just read two stanzas. The beauty of community health workers. And the final two stanzas say, with every visit, every gentle touch, they weave a fabric of love and trust. Their work is beauty, pure and true, a testament to humanity shining through. Let us honor these unsung heroes bold, their dedication, their hearts of gold, for in their work we see the best of human kindness forever at its best. Thank you so much, Victor, for sharing that gorgeous testament with us. And I'll say that in our alliance building session, we had first Margaret O'Dara, who has come up on multiple times in these conversations. And she's a community health worker, a mentor mother, and she's helped to build the CHW Champions Network in Kenya, which has resulted in dramatic policy changes. She told us about how sometimes community health workers can be given names like non-state actors, and how that can really disinspire them from feeling like they're fully part of the conversation. But instead, she found inspiration in going and knocking on the doors and saying, we're not non-state actors. We're actually a core part of the fabric of care delivery, and we want to be recognized both in name and materially. Following that, we had Carmen Villela Vargas speak from Peru, working as a community health leader for almost 3 decades, president of the Lima Callao CHW Association, now working with the government to just simply get rid of the name volunteer. If it's in their name, then how could we ever consider them more than that? But then to think about salaries, supports, and the like. She shared with us that she's been featured in a book about visionary and rebellious change agents. And we were able to share that to the larger group. And there was no one better to represent that spirit than Carmen. Finally, we had Denise Octavia Smith, who is the founding co-director of the National Association of Community Health Workers. She started in 2019 until 2025. And anyone who knows her knows that she's a driving force in national policy and advocacy. Now, we might say that in someone's bio, but to hear Denise speak is a joy in itself. She, like her colleagues, Margaret and Carmen, held court, spoke truth to us in ways that in the chat, again, community health workers were saying, oh my God, I'm screaming in my house. Please never stop speaking. You see us like no one does. I highly recommend that you go back. I can't do honor to anything that these leaders said. But Denise reminded us that community health workers are not just a healthcare delivery solution. They're people who are working to battle and find their own dignity against the face of injustice. And so then finally, we had a wonderful perspective from Dr. Richard Kabanda, who's the chair of the African Continental Community Health Systems Technical Working Group at the Africa CDC. And he reminded us that really like a four-wheel car, there are many players in the room. There's the community, there's peers, there's partners, there's government, and that sometimes some governments might see this as threatening. These community health workers are coming together. Will I be able to participate in a conversation that is going to go in the right direction? And we were able to remind everyone in the room, including Richard described this too, that if we can really enter into these conversations with a sense of partnership, we can build something better together. And now in a time of significant turmoil and destruction, we have in some ways an opportunity. And sometimes we will be forced into new opportunities, and sometimes we will make good choices. And that is really the call to action right now going forward. We then fielded a bunch of questions, and folks were basically asking, how can I be a part of the solution? And we had a good conversation about what does it mean to be a good ally? How to be a tether to the program without decentering the community health worker. Not just nothing for us without us, but whatever is for us, let us build it, but don't abandon us. And that's a real tricky art, and it's something that I think a lot of people here who aren't community health workers want to be within that space, and I applaud you for that. So thank you so much for the opportunity to participate, and I hand it back to you, Lenny.
Thank you, Dan, and all the CHW association leaders. I think there's power in organizing. And yes, some may see it as a threat, but I think those of us who know it's the way to go because it will bring community health worker voices together as one as we continue advocating for professionalization. Now we're going to take a minute and call upon Kingsley, one of the co-founders of this symposium, to kind of share his key takeaways and reflection on the symposium overall and the next steps. And then thereafter, we'll have the reading of our Bangkok call to action. So King, over to you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lenny. Colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pleasure to be with you as we close this auspicious symposium. My name is Kingsley Chikapupa, and as alluded to earlier on, I'm one of the co-founders of this CHW Symposia, together with my colleague, David Musoki from Uganda. I am based in Malawi. Unfortunately for us, apart from being one of the co-founders, we also happen to be co-chairs. We were the co-chairs of the Community Health Workers Thematic Working Group within the Health Systems Global. And this was previously the steward, of the International CHW Symposia up until earlier this year when the thematic working group was not renewed or refreshed, as we call it within the Health Systems Global. So I'm really excited to be here. And maybe before I go into the next steps, allow me to also just make a few reflections regarding the fourth CHW Symposia. I think as we conclude this inspiring symposium, we really need to reflect on the remarkable resilience and critical contributions that CHWs are making worldwide, especially in a landscape which is now shaped by diminishing foreign aid, conflict, and migration, as we have learned throughout the symposium. CHWs continue to stand on the front lines. They deliver life-saving care to the most marginalized populations. So their commitment in fragile and humanitarian contexts, as we have heard and learned from Thailand-Myanmar border, it really exemplifies the power of community-driven health systems. So it is highly encouraging to see that this symposium, just as the previous symposia, continues to make major contributions to improving and advancing community health work globally, especially in areas affected by conflict, migration, exclusion, etc., etc. And what excites me most, and those of us who have been there since 2017 when we started this symposia, is that this symposium has once again highlighted the urgent need to invest in the training, fair remuneration, policy harmonization, so that CHWs can continue, to provide quality care. But also we recognize the expanding role of CHWs in the prevention and management of non-communicable diseases, for example, their strength in challenging gender inequalities within the health systems, and the list goes on. So we're really excited to see that from the call to action in Monrovia and now the call to action that will be read shortly. The movement is growing. The movement is really growing. And like Nazo said, we know, I think, when news actually reached everyone that the thematic work group of health systems global is no longer working for the next 4 years up until another refresh takes place. I think everyone else was really concerned regarding the future of this symposia. But fortunately for us, like I said, we weren't just the co-chairs of that TWG, but we are also co-founders together with an army of partners who have stood behind this symposium through thick and thin. And we are really grateful to all partners for the wonderful work that we've done together, and we continue to do going forward. So we needed to put that concern to rest. And as we close this symposia, I really wanted to announce that the CHW Symposia will continue to take place. The stewardship now will rest with the Community Health Delivery Partnership, CHDP, who will be taking over on this role moving forward, including preparing for the 5th International CHW Symposium, which is expected to be held hopefully in person in 2027. More details regarding this symposium will be communicated to all stakeholders, including participants, in due course. But I would like to echo what Nazo said. CHDP is really placed, better placed, I must say, to actually steward and drive this movement going forward because of the networks and partnerships that are there, that have cooperated and worked together over the years. And so we're really excited as co-founders, because that was also our concern to say what happens to the International CHW Symposia, because like everyone else has alluded to, these symposia are here to stay. So we weren't just sleeping. We were really working behind the scenes to make sure that the International Symposia does not die a natural death. So we're really excited, and we're hoping to move together in this direction, or networks or partnerships as HDP together with us, working behind the scenes like we always do. We'll always see more and more stronger, powerful symposia, but not only powerful symposia, but actually also the translation of our calls to action being implemented all over the countries across the globe. And that's our desire, and to actually see that the voices of CHWs themselves are more and more expanded and are being recognized, fairly remunerated, and they become part of the formal health system in providing quality care. So with those remarks, I believe that together, through shared knowledge and innovation, we will move toward equitable, resilient health systems that are empowered by community health workers together with all other cadres within the health systems. Let us carry forward this momentum, support the symposium, recognizing and elevating community health workers as vital architects of global health for all. I really want to thank organizers, CPI and partners, for a wonderful symposia, virtually though. We all were looking forward to an in-person symposia, but that wasn't really possible. And through hard times, Tom and team, Lydia, Sia, and everyone else, including our partners behind the scenes, you've really pulled together quite a wonderful symposium, and we're really grateful to you. And as has been the tradition, definitely the incoming hosts will actually get in touch, and you can always share the learning just like you learned from Monrovia, Bangladesh, and Uganda. We wish you well, and let's keep the fire burning. Let us continue advocating and promoting community health workers all over the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, King, for those wonderful remarks. And once again, we thank you and David for starting this symposium, a platform that gives community health workers a voice. We really appreciate you. And I think you've already answered one of our calls to action, that we have a host moving forward. So we'll have another symposium in 2 years' time, 2027. We'll wait anxiously to know where it will take place, but this is very exciting. And on that happy note, I have 3 powerful, amazing, passionate, committed community health workers to read for us our collective Bangkok Call to Action 2025. They're going to read it together, and then thereafter, I will call upon them again to come and give their own personal reflections. So what they're going to read is what some of us have been working with all your inputs to make sure that what we've had in all the sessions is we put it together on what we'd like to see happen going forward, and hopefully get all the key stakeholders sign on to this call to action. So on that note, I want to call upon my sister, a CHW mobilizer, advocate, and leader, Ramatu from Sierra Leone, to start with the opening reading of the call to action. And then once she reads her section, she'll pass it on to her next colleague. So Ramatu, I don't want to introduce you. I want you to say who you are, and then you'll start the reading. Over to you, Ramatu. Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. I am Ramatu from Sierra Leone, Community Health Worker Supervisor. I'm delighted to be here. We, the participants of the 4th International Community Health Workers Symposium, CHWs, government, civil society, the private sector, and global partners, continue to draw inspiration from the immense contribution of CHW worldwide, and call on the global community to renew its collective commitment to CHWs. From remote villages to urban centers, in times of peace and conflict, CHWs deliver essential service, prevent and respond to disease outbreaks, and provide a vital and trusted link between communities and other levels of healthcare. CHWs are a lifeline for the most vulnerable and marginalized. CHWs are indispensable in delivering life-saving services, building community, resilience, and advancing gender equity and economic opportunity, especially for women, children, and adolescents. At the 3rd International CHW Symposium, the Monrovia Call to Action 2023 affirmed the central role of CHWs in achieving universal health coverage and global health security. 2 years later, the world faces persistent challenges, including insufficient and unsustainable financing for community health, alongside a transformed landscape of declining development assistance and worsening crises, such as climate change, conflict, displacement, and non-communicable diseases, which strain already fragile systems. Nevertheless, there has been significant progress in the formalization, integration, and protection of CHWs. In several countries, an increasing number of nations have adopted policies supporting professional CHWs, and several are progressing towards implementation. Clear evidence that governments are moving from commitment to action. We celebrate governments that recognize and center community health workers as part of their national health workforce. We stand and in solidarity with CHWs around the world, and celebrate excuse me, and celebrate the tremendous progress of CHW Association and advocacy for the change. We also celebrate the tremendous progress of CHW Association in strengthening national health workforce for communities. We call on everyone to stand with us in our collective determination to secure, strengthen, reimagine, and professionalize community health workers program and ensure CHWs are at the heart of the health workforce of the future. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. Let me call on my colleague, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Ramatu, for the opportunity that you've given to me. I'm Bernard Otieno, a CHW advocate and a CHW organizer from Kenya. Let me say that during the symposium, we had a collective call to action. And in our call to action, we at the highest levels of leadership, heads of state, ministers of health, labor, and finance, local governments, regional bodies, bilateral and multilateral partners, and UN agencies in partnership with communities, civil societies, the private sector, and CHW associations to take urgent coordinated action to have the 4 pillars of this symposium that were identified as call to action. One of the first calls to action that we have is prioritize, professionalize and integrate CHWs into national health policies and systems. We demand that CHWs be recognized as essential health professionals, paid, trained, supervised, and supplied. CHWs must be integrated into national health systems, included in planning and budgeting, and protected by the law. CHWs deserve safe working conditions, legal protection, and professional pathways. In line with that, we identified several things that we need to do to accomplish that. One is to recognize professional CHWs within national human resources for health and primary health care strategies, and legally recognize CHWs as workers and under national laws. 2 is to elevate the voices of CHWs, including women, in policy design, program implementation, and global health dialogues. We also recognized that we need to enact and enforce policy and legal frameworks that define CHWs' roles and guarantee fair and timely remunerations, rights and protections, as well as support the development and implementation of CHW professionalization frameworks, training and supportive supervision models that strengthen CHW's professional status and capacity. Again, we need to enact and enforce policy and legal frameworks that recognize and support CHW's associations, including their formation and impact on policy. We need to institutionalize gender transformative CHW policies that reflect the gender differences across the career stages of CHWs to minimize workforce, barriers to entry, maximize performance, develop skills, and advance careers in a safe and enabling environment. Develop skills and advance careers in a safe and enabling environment. Lastly, on that point, we need to prioritize CHWs in health sector reforms, climate adaptations, community-level peace building, and pandemic preparedness and response plans. The second pillar of a call to action that we need, or we have to do, is to reinforce the power of CHWs to steward the health system, foster inclusion, and build trust in context of conflict, crisis, and exclusions. CHWs have a unique ability to build trust, cohesion, and peace in communities by virtue of being of a community, not just for therefore. CHWs are and must be recognized as pillars of sustainable health systems through the turbulence of conflict and crisis that CHWs persist. Therefore, we have 2 points about this. One, we need to stand with and support CHWs providing services in communities excluded or marginalized from government health systems. Again, We need to build locally rooted CHW programs that foster trust, cohesion, and peace in communities. Our third call to action, therefore, is secure and align financing to sustain quality community health programs. Funding gaps for CHW programs range from 25 to 50% in various contexts. The funding gap for scaled CHW programs in sub-Saharan Africa is estimated to be US $5.4 billion annually. Yet investing in CHW programs can yield at least a tenfold return on investment. The future of CHW's programs depend on local and national leadership, innovative partnership, and diversified, dependable financing models beyond traditional aids. We therefore need to commit to progressive domestic budget increases for community-based primary health care, including CHWs, with credible transition plans away from donors. We also need to align international financing, including foundational and catalytic funding, with local and country-led priorities, strategies, and financing plans, and align investments across funders to avoid parallel structures. We also need to strengthen existing coordination mechanisms, including national community health platforms, and leverage partnerships at all levels to improve coordination and joint high-level advocacy. Our fourth and last call to action in this symposium, therefore, we need to leverage technology and innovation that empowers CHWs, promote equity, and drive evidence-based decision-making. We recognize that technology and innovation, when centered on people, can amplify the impact of CHWs and make CHWs work more effective and efficient. We applaud the positive technological advances to date and encourage the strengthening of governments' capacities to implement and scale technologies that are, and encourage the strengthening of government's capacity to implement scale technology already working, but urge the design of technological advances. Excuse me. I'm sorry for that. Okay, I'm saying we further urge the design of technological advances that complement the CHW's role, augment human connections, and improve health data quality and use. Responsibly design, adopt, and utilize technologies co-created with CHWs and host countries and aligned with the community with priorities, as well as national policy strategies and frameworks. Lastly on that, we need to ensure that these technologies are inclusive, equitable, and accessible to support the work of CHWs, especially in low resource settings. Our collective commitment, and I now need to invite my fellow Elam to continue with the part of the call to action in this symposium. Welcome, my colleague.
Thank you so much. I am Bilkis Alam from Pakistan. It is a privilege to be included in this symposium. Thank you for the opportunity. I am going to describe our collective commitment. CHWs are transforming health system with resilient, equitable, and people-centered care. In this moment of transition, we choose solidarity and over fragmentation, local, national ownership alongside global partnership and innovation grounded in equity. We stand united to safeguard progress, expand opportunity, advance inclusion, and celebrate the role of CHWs as an agent of health equity and hope in an uncertain world. We pledge to advance a common agenda for CHWs rooted in right, fairness, sustainability, and shared responsibility going forward. Let us commit to first, engaging in joint action and advocacy to advance and safeguard progress toward supportive policies as well as innovation and sustainable financing mechanism for CHW at the local, national, regional, and global level. Number 2, building and strengthen CHW association and coalition at the local, national, regional, and global level because CHW need power to make change. Number 3, convening the 5th International CH Symposium in a person 2027-2028 with the support of current and previous hosts and donors to continue the legacy and momentum of CHW's symposia and to honor our commitment to accountability. Collaboration and innovation are acts of solidarity essential to protecting hard-won progress and driving us closer to achieving health for all. We invite all partners to endorse and implement these actions over commitments to health for all start in communities with CHWs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramatu, Bernard, and Bilkis for reading our call to action. This is our call to action and our collective commitment as participants of this 4th CHW Symposium. Some of you are asking for a copy. Yes, it will be on the website. We'll still welcome your feedback. And once it's finalized, we'll reach out again, requesting each one of us to reach as many key stakeholders and decision makers to make sure that you actually will do implement this call to action. Our community health workers have read the call to action, but now I want to give them an opportunity in a couple of minutes to also share their own reflections. What does this mean to them? And of course, they are here representing millions of community health workers. So Ramatu, you've read the call to action. What does this mean to you? What are your key reflections on this symposium and this call to action and the future of community health workers in your country, but of course globally as well? And once you're done, you pass it on to Bernard, and Bernard will pass it back to Bilkis. Thank you.
Yeah. So yes, since this 3 days symposium with all what I have heard from different people around the globe, it just gives me the reflection that recognition is not just about money, because for community health workers to be today in the globe speaking with others, they are not speaking for us, we are speaking for ourselves. I think this is a sign that CHIC, the tool CHIC has given to us, we have really used it to participate in the ladder of participation. Yeah, like for my call to action, it's like CHWs should be well paid, included, acknowledged, above all protected. Also, the Sierra Leone community health workers, the national, we are asking for CHIC to collaborate with the government of Sierra Leone for national CHWs in Sierra Leone to benefit and enjoy what other community health workers are enjoying today. If not because of with CHIC, Sierra Leone will never come out today. Nobody will hear about Sierra Leone today. So that is my main point here. the CHW are recognized. The health system becomes stronger when CHWs are recognized. Communities become healthier when CHWs are recognized. Sierra Leone and the globe will become brighter when CHW are recognized. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramatu. We stand with you. I know the CHWs in Sierra Leone. Bernard, briefly, what are your reflections as you read this call to action and during your participation in the symposium? Bernard.
Thank you. In the call to action, and generally what I would like to talk about shortly is, as we close this symposium, from the beginning and all the sessions that we had, I think I'll come out with the two things that I would like to actually be actualized on the ground. The first one is the issue of national associations. When community health workers come together as associations in their nations, then they have the voices. Their voices do wonders, as Margaret had elaborated sometimes back when she was doing her presentations. So we need to be given the opportunity to ensure that every nation have got a national association for community health workers that help them give out their voices, that they can be heard, they can air their views, and whatever they give out can be implemented by the policymakers. Lastly, I would like to talk about financing. And this is the way I'm going to put it. We've talked, we've had conferences, we've known that community health workers are existing. We've known that when community health workers are there, help is cheaper, because we got from the call to action that they reduce the budget by tenfold when they are put in place. It is now time that we need to put everything into action. And therefore, from this particular symposium, every government institution, all the government officials that attended this symposium, I'm calling on to them to go back to their countries and implement and to give out the policies that support community health workers programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. I couldn't have said it any better. I think we need to get away from speaking. Speaking is good, but we need action, and we hear you and we commit to that, and we hope that even all the other stakeholders will do the same. Bilkis, last but not least, what are your reflections from this?
Yes, thank you. Through my participation in the fourth CHW Symposium, I am reminded of the powerful impact created when community health workers from around the world come together. This gathering reinforces an important truth. Real progress in health system begins with communities, and CHWs are the closest bridge to their voices. This commitment encouraged me to strengthen truth with communities, listen more attentively, and ensure that local realities guide our decisions. It also reminds us that the transformation is only possible when CHWs are protected, supported, and recognized as a leader. In Pakistan, our lady health workers demonstrate remarkable leadership every day. Their contribution in maternal and child health, communication, non-communication disease, especially dengue, polio, COVID-19, and preventive services and community outreach, especially their participation in decision making, make our health system stronger and more responsive. In Pakistan, in all provinces of Pakistan, our LHWs has workload. So if we want to achieve our universal health coverage in Pakistan, additional funding is needed so that the number of LHW can be increased in every province. I would like also to request the symposium team to formally should announce and celebrate World CHW LHWs Day each year to honor and dedication to honor the dedication and service of lady health workers CHWs across the globe. This system is valuable opportunity for us to learn, build solidarity, and raise a united global voice for compassionate, equitable, and people certain health system. Inshallah. Thank you so much for everyone.
Okay, thank you, Birkis. Thank you, Ramatu Bernard. We are almost done with our reflections. I think when you hear these appeals, these passionate reflections, it's really the time to act. I think we've spoken a long time, and like our community health workers are actually telling us, yes, make it happen. So our last but not least speaker on the reflections is Mary T. Bassett from New York. Over to you, and we look forward to your reflections from the symposium. Thank you.
Unmute. All right, I'm unmuted. Thanks very much. And thanks for giving me the chance to say a few words. I'd like to begin by congratulating you all on a successful fourth CHW Symposium with such a comprehensive and convincing call to action. It's also wonderful to hear a commitment to a fifth symposium. People joined together from Myanmar, the Congo, Palestine, and beyond. A reminder that community health workers, indeed health workers generally, continue their work even when their communities are under threat. The fact that this was a virtual online convening made possible connections that would not otherwise have been possible. And this, I think you should see as an upside of the financial impact of the withdrawal of the United States from the World Health Organization, the dissolution of USAID, and the general shrinkage of the global health architecture with reduced fundings by several countries. Even if funds had been available, travel from many places likely would not have been possible. But when the organizers began planning this meeting, none of these events were anticipated. And some might have just thrown up their hands, but the organizers did not, neither did the funders who remained, and instead they worked even harder. And that's because community health workers are key to the right of every human being to the highest attainable standard of health. All nations have endorsed this right, and all nations need to understand how the CHW contributes to it. CHWs have a long history and many different names. So you've heard many of them during the meeting: health promoters, promotores. I just heard lady community workers, ASHAs. The view that these are rural workers, cadres who address gaps in access when facilities are located far from where people live, is a common one, but it's outmoded because accessibility is not only determined by distance. People may think that CHWs have a role only for people who live in poor countries, where there are few doctors, for example, but this is also not true. So I'd like to take a moment to talk about the United States from where I'm speaking to you now, because CHWs for people in the United States have been an example of how global to local is a two-way street. Yes, efforts to incorporate CHWs in the United States began over 50 years ago, and the inspiration came from the developing world. Wealthy countries can innovate by learning from developing countries. And one of the very first projects was one here in Boston. Actually, that's where I'm speaking to you now. Boston has some world-famous university hospitals, but for the residents of Columbia Point, where the community health workers were first deployed, these hospitals might as well have been in another country. People went without care because they couldn't afford it, because the cost of actually getting to the place where they got care was too high, because they couldn't get time off work, they couldn't even pay for bus fare, or because they believed, and they weren't wrong, that they would be looked down on by the staff at the hospitals, that they wouldn't be able to afford the medicines or the tests, or they were fearful that hospitals are places where people go to die, because they'd seen that happen. And I'm sure to many of you, these multiple barriers sound very familiar. And we all know that community health workers can address each one of these. CHWs increase access. They bring basic services closer to home. They educate, they advocate. They're not just for a single person at a time, but for whole communities. And people who work in community health learned this over 50 years ago. You've raised the question in the call, and I'll reiterate it here. How can people with these wide-ranging responsibilities not be considered professionals? How can they be expected to volunteer and not be paid? And shouldn't their jobs permit growth and skills acquisition so that their connection to the community is not exploited, but strengthened? CHWs are a key part of achieving the right to health. In a world where people are guaranteed their basic needs, a world that no nation has yet achieved, then we can rely purely on solidarity and volunteerism, of which there's plenty, but this has not proved sustainable. And it's clear that there should be a way to compensate people for work and to ensure that there's a path to advancement. CHW's strengths also conclude something that's not easily trained, and that's being of and for the people. Here again, we in the United States can learn from the experiences of countries with far fewer resources. And I hope as you all end this meeting that you go home knowing that the right to health remains within reach and that CHWs bring it closer. I know you will leave with a renewed commitment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mary, for that and closing our reflections. Before I hand it back to Tom, I really want to add my voice by thanking the organizers. I know when we started this and everything happened, I wasn't sure actually I would pull it off, but it's been an amazing experience working with Tom, with Lydia, Nazo, and everyone else to make this symposium happen. I've had the privilege for the last 3 years of working with amazing community health workers. They are leaders, they are committed. Even when the going gets tough, community health workers don't give up. They stay, they serve, communities depend on them. So as we conclude the symposium, my ask is let each one of us make a personal commitment. We have the call to action, we have our collective commitment. But what can we do where we are? Just one thing, just think about it. What will I do from today to make sure that when we come back together in 2 years, we'll be saying something different. We've been talking about professional community health workers. We've been talking about supply, train, supervise, payment for the last decades. I want us to come back when we are now celebrating the successes we've had. And it starts with us. What can we do? How many stakeholders will you take this call to action and sit with them and engage with them and make sure they sign and they commit and they see it through? So that's my appeal to all of us, to take it personally, to do something about it, so that when we come back together, we'll be saying a different story in 2027. With that, I want to thank my panelists. You've been amazing. You've been great. And thank all the organizers. And above all, I celebrate and stand in solidarity with all the community health workers globally. So Tom, thank you for this privilege to give me the opportunity to share this panel. I now hand it over back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lenny. And as you said, what a joy to hear our wonderful CHWs, Ramatu, Bana, and Bilkis, reading out that call to action. It was wonderful. And then thank you for your wise reflections afterwards, and those of Mary and Lenny as well. In a moment, I'll hand over to Lydia Di Stefano, our Senior Research and Advocacy Manager, and lead for this symposium. Lydia will give our general CPI thanks and close out the symposium. But I know there's one person who Lydia won't thank, and that's Lydia. So I just wanted to get in first to do that. You'll all have seen Lydia responding to emails, virtually sprinting from place to place, coordinating with many of you to be actually getting people into the rooms, talking and listening. Since she took this role a year ago, the symposium has been in safe hands, even if we've all doubted it at times as well, Lenny. They've been in safe hands, they've been in determined and courageous hands. And in case any of you still have some doubt that Lydia's the lady who can do it all, she also managed to arrange her own wedding last weekend. So she's really had quite a week. Thank you so much, Lydia. It wouldn't have happened in any way like this without you. So thank you. And over to you for closing it out, Lydia.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was very sweet. Over the past 3 days, more than 700 participants joined the 4th International CHW Symposium, including more than 300 community health workers. Across 68 countries, all of us have gathered to share knowledge, experiences, and our hopes for the future. None of this would have been possible without the dedication of our co-hosts, speakers, partners, and most importantly, the community health workers, whose voices have guided us throughout the process and over the past 3 days. Thank you to all of you for your energy, your insights, and your commitment. This year has been challenging for a lot of us, and all of your support in these times means the most. We'd like to take the time to thank Johnson & Johnson for their financial support for community health workers throughout the event, to our advisory board for their guidance, their support, and commitment, to the Community Health Impact Coalition, and in particular, Dr. Lenny Mazira and the CHW networks that have made all of this event possible. To Nazo Qureshi, who has also been personally affected this year and yet has remained committed and continued to contribute her time and energy to this event. And to Dan Palazuelos, who has guided us, energized us, and continued to support us. Finally, I would like to thank my colleagues, Kate, Tom, and Sia, who have tirelessly helped me plan this event over the past year, and to all of our colleagues at CPI, who many of you would have met as session moderators, answering emails, and who have been continuously behind the scenes making this event possible for all of us. This symposium has highlighted that CHWs are not just part of the health system, they are the heart of the health system. CHW's work goes beyond just delivering health services to building cohesive and inclusive communities. We've heard stories of resilience in conflict zones, innovation in low resource settings, and solidarity across borders. I hope we all leave here with renewed conviction that community health workers must be recognized, protected, and supported as professionals. Over the next days, weeks, and months, each of us has a role to play, to continue to advocate, to implement, to fund, and to amplify CHW leadership. Our work does not end here, and we look forward to continuing to build momentum, strengthening CHW associations, and preparing for the 5th International CHW Symposium. Between now and then, let's hold ourselves accountable to the promises that we've made here today and leave the symposium with united purpose, carrying forward the voices of CHWs as agents of health, equity, and hope. Together, we can reimagine health systems, and together we can achieve health for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
I don't think people want to say goodbye.
No. Maybe, Tom, you need to say we officially close the symposium.
Thank you,
We
Tom.
officially
Thank you,
close the
Lydia,
symposium. Thank
Mary,
you.
Lenny. All the
Thank
best.
you.
All the best.
Thank
What a
you.
great time.
Everyone.
All
Especially
the
those who
best.
stayed up so late in the night.
Mhm.
Bye-bye, everybody. Air hugs.